Hey guys, Spartan here from SpartanTrading.com. Well, you hit you guys with some trading basics today, and today I want to talk about how do you recognize when a trend is changing or when a move is over. Very basic concept. A lot of people have different ways of doing it, and I think that talking about it, explaining the way that I do it may help some of you guys get that further confirmation you need, or can potentially help you, recognize this a little bit easier with actual confirmation that the move is indeed over. You're going to get out of the way, or you're going to look to maybe change your position from long to short, short to long, so on and so forth. Obviously, an extremely useful thing to be able to recognize. It's one of the basics of TA, technical analysis, that everyone should know. And this is how I do it. So when looking at a move or looking at a trend, there's three main components that I will look at from a technical analysis standpoint. And I'll keep this video short and basic, but I'm going to be looking at number one, the trend itself, which is the actual drawn trend line on the chart. Number two, the EMAs that I'm using alongside that trend, which will act as a fluid trend line is what I would like to call them. And then number three, I'm looking at the volume. So actual trend line, EMAs, and volume. These three things together are what's going to give me that confirmation that the trend is indeed changing. I'm going to show you two examples. One is going to be the actual trend changing. Another one's going to show you an example of when the trend is actually not changing because there's a couple things that haven't confirmed, aka you haven't gotten all three things giving you that signal. Now, trends can change, fairly quickly without all three confirming, but this will give you your closest or highest probability of going, yes, indeed, the trend is changing. Anyway, so let's take a look at this IBM, and we can go to a 5-minute, 10-minute, doesn't matter. I like to trade on a 10-minute chart just because with the EMAs, it gives me a higher probability, I find, that the trend's actually indeed changing in the short term. Now, let's take a look at this stock right now. So from the morning, IBM, obviously, trading to the upside. I typically don't use EMAs the first 30 minutes, 40 minutes, just because you get whipsaws through them unless it's a bigger EMA, like a 50 or so on and so forth. But anyways, stock's trending to the upside in the morning. Volume's pretty steady to the upside. What we end up seeing is the trend break at this point. It breaks below the EMA support, and the volume has switched from buying to selling, has actually slowed down right when that trend broke. The buying slowed down. The volume traded down quite a bit, and then it started to increase on the actual selling side. Now, those three things, that trend breaking, the EMA breaking, when you can use whatever moving average you like. You can 21 moving average, whatever intraday. And that volume changing is what gives you my confirmation. You have the exact same thing to the downside as well. You were selling off, the actual trend intraday breaks, volume starts to slow down on the selling side, and then the EMA supports gets reclaimed. Once I start to see all three, confirmation, trends change, now we're on a long side trend. Obviously to the upside, you can see it pushes to the next resistance, and that's a different story. Now let's take an example look at an example when we don't get that confirmation. Now, here's Tesla from intraday, and I'm going to draw two trend lines here. There's going to be the trend line from this morning, and there's also going to be the trend line from intraday. And we'll draw the trend line intraday later on. And you can ignore these, support resistance lines that I have drawn. Tesla, so obviously in the morning, it's trending to the downside, right? It breaks that trend line, and volume does start to slow down on the sell side. Now, my final confirmation for, okay, trends actually changing on Tesla is always going to be a reclaim of that EMA support, the third thing I want to see, especially on a higher volume day sell side to the downside. I want confirmation to be able to get in that thing trying to pick the bottom. And I actually had members ask me, all day about Tesla. Spartan, can I go long here? Spartan, can I go long here? And I say, trend's broken, volume looks okay, but we have not reclaimed EMA support, so it doesn't make sense to go long. And lo and behold, it sold off the entire day. And, obviously you can draw the trend after it got rejected and started to break back down, and it basically rode that down the entire day. I actually got asked that question right when it was at last day's low. But you can see as an example, this is why you want to wait. If I ended up getting in long here, obviously, you'd probably get stopped out at 1026, but let's say you didn't have stops, obviously you'd be stuck in there for another 30 points of room to the downside. So confirmation, super key on this. Look at the three things. Again, three things are the actual drawn trend, EMA, support or resistance being reclaimed or broken, and then the actual volume. And typically what you'll see is high volume one way, the direction you're looking at, that will slow down. It'll end up being a lot less at some point, and then you'll see a reversal where you'll start to see buying volume come in this case, if we were looking for it to continue to the upside. So three things, hopefully that helps you there. I use this every single day, literally. this is one of the concepts I teach my members. It's extremely basic, but hopefully this helps you guys. And yeah, if you have any questions, you go to SpartanTrading.com. Otherwise, I do go over this stuff in the webinars, obviously in more detail. Thanks for watching. Talk to you guys next week. Have a good one.